Davis, with his plans for a recyclable, well, kind of recyclable, more eco-friendly surfboard anyway.
It is 10 to 10. Mountain rescuers say a man who went walking in the Lake District with only his smartphone for navigation is lucky to be alive.
Yeah, more than 70 people were involved in the search for him. He was missing for 20 hours. The conditions were really difficult. In the end, when they found him, he had hypothermia and injuries to his knee, his leg and his foot. As Nina said, he was lucky to be alive. Alison Freeman has this report.
It took 70 volunteers 20 hours to find a missing man in terrible conditions. He'd been relying on a map on his mobile phone to get him to the top of England's highest peak in the Lake District when he got lost. On a day like today, following the well-trodden paths up Scarfell Pike might appear easy. But in bad conditions, when the weather comes in, navigation can be much more difficult. The man dialed 999 at 6:15 in the evening, and the first batch of 15 rescuers were deployed.
The weather was appalling. So for the next 5 hours we spent looking for him. Couldn't find him at all, and then set up a major search and brought in another 50, 60 team members and dogs. And by sort of 3 o'clock the next day we still hadn't found him. And the team was coming off the mountain when they stumbled across him. He was injured, very, very cold, in a serious condition.
It sounds like he was lucky to survive, in your opinion.
He was very, very lucky. So he had a smartphone, which he was relying on, and it just doesn't give the necessary information for him to actually get off the mountain safely.
You must be finding that this is an increasing issue, people relying on their phones. They're not reliable when you're going walking, I take it.
They're not reliable. Phones will, particularly when it's cold, and suddenly they'll go from 30% down to dead. So power banks, really critical.
What should that man have done? What is it that you're advising people to do?
Well, we've been investing in a website, AdventureSmart UK. It basically asks 3 questions. Do I know what the weather's going to be like? Have I got the right equipment? And have I got the skills to use it? I think if anybody, and particularly this gentleman, had asked himself the question, even the first question, I think he would have said, I'd better not go up there. And that's the message that we want to get. It's preparation. Don't just head up there because it's nice now, but when the sun goes down, that will be bitterly cold up there.
Alison Freeman, BBC News, Wasdale in Cumbria.
Let's talk to Alan Hinkes, who's just pointing out all the mountains on the picture behind us, so that we know exactly what's what in the lakes.
And I want to be there. You've dragged me here.
Sorry, it's a nice day to be out, isn't it? However, that leads us quite nicely into the fact that you might go off up a mountain on what seems like a nice day. You might not. You might have thought, oh well, I don't need X and Y because it's a nice day, and you get to the top and the weather changes like that.
That's right. Yeah, and it can. I mean, that is one of the things you should check, the weather. We have this thing called Be Adventure Smart, which is weather, check the weather and your gear and the knowledge, which means have you got the skill. So with great weather forecasts, which I've just been watching on your programme, you know, you should know what's going to happen, really. So check the weather. That's one of the Be Adventure Smart things. And so then you're prepared. And make sure you have the right kit, which I've got some of it here, obviously.
We'll come on to the kit in a minute, but I just wanted you to reflect on Alison's report there and the people who are heavily reliant on their mobile phones.
Yeah.
That's not coming as a surprise to you.
My battered one, no. I mean, they're essential bits of kit. Take them, because you can, if you get a phone signal, you can telephone for help. But that is the bane of our, mountain rescue, because people are just bringing up willy-nilly. If they get a phone signal, they're expecting to be rescued. Not that we mind rescuing people, mountain rescue, that's what we're there for, but there's a lot of problems caused. But trying to use maps on these things is not a good idea. No. People are just using Google Maps. I've nothing against Google, but OS maps are what you should use, and you need a paper map. And
a Google map, you need 3G or 4G or whatever it is. And we all know, anyone who's been up on the tops in wherever, you quite often don't have any coverage up there.
No, I mean, essentially, I'm a geographer as well, so I'm biased. You need a map, an Ordnance Survey map. And they've been making maps since the late 1700s. We've got some of the best maps in Britain. And I know some people go, but I can't read a map. Well, and so on the phone, they think they can just follow things. But as you say, if your phone conks out, lack of battery, or you drop it in a puddle, then it's not going to work. So you should learn to map read. Again, I'm biased, I'm a geographer. Learn to map read because it's a life skill and it'll save your life.
Really dramatic pictures of some of your previous trips. How do you map read in those conditions?
Yeah, I didn't. Well, that's me. Believe it or not, that's in the Lake District, that blizzard.
Is it really?
It looks like it could be the Himalaya, but that is the Lake District. That's how in fact, it's the same ice axe in the picture, look. That's how serious the conditions can get in the Lake District. But when you saw me in the top of K2 there, the world's hardest mountain, second highest, the picture of Fiona, my daughter, you know, I probably didn't need a map there because it's a steep mountain climb.
You see the top.
You follow a ridge, you know, and then I retrace my steps back down.
You talked about battery life. One thing that I've noticed, having been out, if you're in particularly cold conditions, or if you've got it in your coat pocket and it's wet, it can very quickly fail. The battery life can disappear.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've got a plastic, you know, I'll stick it in a plastic bag, my phone, and I use it for photography, which I'm embarrassed about because I'm a proper photographer, but I do. Yeah. And I will, you know, ring people up. So you do need it in a plastic bag, but it will fail when it's very cold. Your battery life just drops.
And should you keep it in a like a freezer bag or something?
Yeah,
like
definitely,
that?
because you know it can get really wet and water can penetrate even the best waterproof clothing. So yeah.
Let's go back to basics, because what you're telling us is that a mobile phone is great. It's part of the broad jigsaw of the equipment that you need. What are the essentials? Because it cannot just be a phone.
No, well, I've got...
Show us what you've got.
Well, I've got a torch, and particularly this time of year, a head torch. And they used to be very expensive, these things. In fact, I often carry two. I've got two in here because, you know, you can't get off the hill without a head torch. Should be another one in here. You need a map.
Yeah.
I've got some maps in here. There's a compass.
Yeah.
But more essential than a compass for navigating is a good old paper. Got my over trousers. Well, that's a jacket. Obviously, you need layers of clothing. That's a fleece jacket, which I could whip on over this.
And many layers is better than a couple of big thick
And
compass,
there's my maps, obviously, my good old Honour survey maps. This is an essential piece of kit. We could all get in this, all three of us, but we won't, will we? This is a bivvy shelter, and it's the wind that kills you. If you can imagine, you know, a sausage on the end of your fork, if you blow on it to cool it down, that's what the wind will do to a human body. It'll blow on you till you're dead. So if you get stuck, you do need one of these big shelters just to get into. And you can get a smaller one than this. They don't weigh very much. These are essential bits of life-saving kit.
Protection.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, I'm being a bit prescriptive here. We don't like to be prescriptive. I mean, I do sometimes go out very lightweight, and I might not carry a rucksack with all this kit in.
If you're walking up a well-trodden trail with lots of other people on a sunny afternoon...
Yeah. All sorts in it.
You know, here's obviously an essential bit of kit. Windproof, waterproof jacket is essential. You know, you need something like that, really.
And really importantly, given how easy it is to turn your ankle, the right kind of footwear. Don't head off up a mountain in your flip-flops, because if you break your ankle, you're still going to have to be rescued even on a summer's day.
Skill is the most important thing. Obviously, fell runners go up in running shoes. You shouldn't really go up in flip-flops. I think I did it once to prove you can do it, but I wouldn't recommend that.
No, you're right, fell runners are expert at what they do. I'm just saying if you're a general person on holiday like me...
Yeah, you need good footwear.
Do you know, you've inspired me to learn to read a map. I'm so lazy on the roads and navigate using the sat-nav, but it's such an important life skill,
It's not difficult.
Isn't it?
In fact, the OS have a free map reading things online you can download, you know, so you know, it's pretty...
Anyone who's done D.A.V. or, I mean, I was in the Boy Scouts, which I loved it, so I learned to do that when I was a teenager. But I'd still, you know, you still forget.
Yeah, we must try and put less pressure on mountain rescue teams because they are there to help genuine accidents. You know, we like going out, and obviously a lot of pressure was put on by that chap. But we're not being judgmental, you know. People need rescuing, and that's fine. But, you know, a lot of dogs went out, you know. One of my favourite dogs, Cassie, went out because I'm patron of Mountain Rescue Search Dogs. But dogs love going out, believe it or not.
Well, your job is done for us. Thank you so much for talking to us, Alan. We're very grateful. You can get off up a mountain.
Yeah, I'm off.
We'll let you start packing your bag. It could take a while. Thank you.
Cheers.
That's it from Breakfast for this morning. Thanks so much for your company.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.